The amazing casual Australian survivor specialists are back to
What a
recap.
title.
What a time! I know. I want to think of like a fun. I should have like going back, like tried to think of a silly one every
We have
time.
like 1 or 2 episodes left,
We're almost
Alexa.
done. We are recapping. Well, I tweeted the 22nd and 23rd LOL episodes because we have watched 22 and 23 episodes of this, and we are not done. And I haven't watched a single
We are
Bond.
not done yet.
We are not done. But I don't know who's going to win because we spoke last week about how Ziggy and Lockie are kind of the two big guns left, and they are both very much on the jury.
Yes, they are. I didn't see them lasting past these 2 weeks unless an immunity run happened. So I was expecting this week. I'm not upset. I mean, I'm upset, but like I'm not Sarah
Shocked.
level upset.
No, I mean we're way. She's like a middle part of the jury now. Like we're way past there at this point. But I mean, we were kind of seeing that with Lockie because Lockie ends up winning I guess the final 7 immunity challenge that ends up sending Ziggy home. But
Mm-hmm.
he very easily could have been that guy to just win his way to the end. And
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about his fake idol play here. But this is a really, really odd final 5. And again, I've never watched another international season. I don't know if you have either, McKenna, but
No,
this is way different than what I expected. And I like it because like,
I don't know who wins.
I guess my winner pick, like Jericho, I gotta go. I have to be all in on him now.
Yeah, you do, and I think he has the strongest case. I think next would be Michelle, then Tara.
Mm-hmm. I think Michelle's got a good case. I just don't know how much people like her.
Yeah, that's the thing. And then there's I guess we'll get to it in when we talk about 23 of Peter being a quote unquote goat / sheep.
A lot of farm animals coming up this week.
Yeah, which I don't necessarily agree with, but we can get to that when we get to that tribal.
Right. And yeah, I mean, we can go right into this, but I think, coming off of Luke going home, we get a really great, like, immediate cut of Jericho hugging that giant bear, which was his like family thing. And this is really, I mean, for what it's worth, like, this is Jericho's time to shine because I was pretty critical of him throughout this entire season, saying, like, how can you take all this credit for stuff when it's so clearly Luke? Or from what I've been watching, it's been so clearly Luke. And I'd say he holds his own pretty well. I think he has a really good 2 episodes here. And when he very easily could have been okay, he's the single guy, let's all just gang up and get rid of the single guy. That's not the case. His name like really doesn't come up at all. And I think that speaks a lot to him being like the cute, likable, adorable guy.
Yeah, for sure. And he's like one of the bigger threats left. And now he can take credit for all of Luke's moves because they made them essentially together and they were in lockstep the entire time. And if he's at the final tribal council, he can be like, I made these moves, right, Luke? And Luke can be like, yes, you did, bud.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. If he was going up against Luke, it'd be a completely different story. But Luke loves him, and I think Luke would be happy to give him any credit. So I think that puts Jericho in a really good position. When, especially on the other side, all of the old / original Samataus are trying to eat each other because Tara is trying to move on from Lockie. She and Ziggy are like just sugar high the whole time. They're really happy together. Michelle is still trying to find her footing. And instead of all of them agreeing and saying, let's just get rid of the only original Asanga left, let's just eat each other. And I think that puts him in a really, really good position going into this final 5.
Yeah, and Pete just wants Lockie out, just wants Lockie out.
And for what it's worth, kind of everybody does. I think everybody knows. I mean, Tara's really wanted him out for a while, too. And I really think up until this immunity challenge, like Ziggy is doing a good job because she's got this good thing going with Tara. It's always like Lockie is always going to be the bigger, scarier guy. But at the end of the day, when there's so few people left, there really aren't a lot of places to hide.
Though this episode, Lockie brings up the phrase "big moves."
Oh, he does. What was the context? Oh, the
getting
fighting
it.
was a big move.
Well, that, but then he was also like, "Oh, taking me out would be a great add to like your resume." I don't think he said resume, but he like alluded to something of a resume.
You're covered.
And then yeah, and then big like it would be a big move like to get me out. And so big moves was mentioned in this, and I was like, "Ah, we almost went the entire season without like resume big moves."
We were so close, and then we immediately voted out the person who brought it up. So you know what? Maybe it's a sign. I do want to talk about the tribal council though, because I think Lockie is like doing the right thing, but then he overplays the acting a bit once we get to tribal council. But let's go back to Ziggy first. So Lockie is obviously very aware of his target. I think Ziggy's aware, but it's just not as obvious for her.
Yeah.
And so there's sort of this like quote unquote break of Lockie, Ziggy, and Tara are together, and then Michelle, Jericho, and Pete are together. And I think Michelle and Jericho have kind of always liked each other, but they just haven't always been on the same page when it comes to voting.
Well, they were until the Tessa vote.
Right.
That was when they kind of split, but then Sarah took all the blame, was thrown all the blame, so like, and now she's gone, now Luke's gone, so I think Jericho was always the lesser threat and the lesser, like, more of like the cuddly teddy bear, you know?
Exactly. Because he wasn't her best friend who screwed her over. That was
Right.
Sarah. May she rest in so much peace. Like Jericho was like the third person down to betray her, and she's not, no one's going to get angry enough at the third person. So there's, but these kind of two different groups of three, these are not, at least the Lockie, Ziggy, Tessa one, or Tessa, excuse me, Lockie, Ziggy, Tara one is not stable at all, because last week Ziggy and Tara had already been wanting to get rid of Lockie, and he kind of knows what's up. He knows that that they would target them. He even like directly tells them that, and kind of I think is just taking less of an approach of like, please save me, and more of a like, it's gonna suck for you if you get me out.
Right. Yeah. But he wins immunity, so he is safe once again.
Yes. And so he wins immunity. Which one was this?
It was the ball in the ring.
Ball in the ring one. And Pete does pretty well in this. Like, I think Pete
I was hoping for Pete. I was like, you need this, buddy. You need this win.
I know, because this guy, he gets emotionally destroyed, like, in the next episode. But in this one, too, like, he does flip a little bit. Like, he's kind of suddenly with Jericho. Like, I know he and Michelle have sort of been friends by necessity, but I think, for what it's worth, like, Pete has, in the past few episodes, I don't think Pete has been blindly just voting because other people have told him to. I think maybe early on he was, but we're really seeing him know who he wants to get out and be very candid about who he wants to get out. So, I think him
which is Lockie.
It has been Lockie. Sure. Yes, in case you weren't sure, it is Lockie. And Lockie, again, before this, like, he is desperate. He's going to Michelle. He's going to Jericho. Like, people he doesn't speak to, like, he is now going to them.
But since Lockie wins, he's now focused on Ziggy because she is the next biggest threat here.
And do you think it's smart? I mean, this obviously doesn't end up working out, but do you think it doesn't even matter? Like, do you think it's smart of him to maybe want to keep Ziggy because he needs another threat around? Or do you think he is so screwed no matter what, if he, whether or not Ziggy's around, if he loses immunity, he's going to be the one to go home?
Lockie or Pete?
Lockie,
I think he's screwed either way.
Yep.
He's like, the hive mind wants him out. So, I mean, if he doesn't win the next one, he's still going to be going whether Ziggy's here or not.
Right.
Because everybody, I think, loves Ziggy more and doesn't really associate her with as much of an immunity threat as Henry and Lockie, which is ridiculous, but okay.
Yeah, the beauty of the double standard, which is a weird thing to say. But
we love it, but
we love it, but don't.
Yeah. And what John commented, too bad she wasted the idol.
Yes, John, I know Ziggy was your favorite. This is a sad day for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but she really didn't need to play it when she did.
No. No, she did not.
Yeah, and Phil Conte makes a good point. It was her only bad call. Like she's been playing really well. I think at the end of the day, it just boiled down to there's sort of been this consistent theme we were getting with her that she doesn't have a number one, and at this point in the game, you need someone who's going to defend you if you are as big of a threat as Ziggy is.
Yeah.
So the other name that floats around is Michelle. It's not like there's a lot of conversation about a rock draw. Did you ever think it was going to get to that point?
I wasn't sure, but the thing is, I kind of like mathed it out a little bit if Tara does go to rocks. So the thing would be, she would be the only one out of her three to draw a rock. So the odds are in her favor to draw the rock. Because Lockie's... No, Tara.
Oh, you mean Tara? Yes.
Lockie's immune. Ziggy was the vote getter, so she would become immune. And then Michelle would be immune. So Jericho and Peter and her would be the only ones drawing rocks. So she has a 1 in 3 shot of drawing a rock, when the other side of the alliance really is the ones that should flip because they have a 2 in 3 shot of going home.
And Ziggy even says that during the tribal council, and I think she does the right thing where she's trying to just be quiet and like everyone else is like trying to pull Tara one or the other. But I think the one thing that maybe, I don't know if this is what tips Tara off, but it seemed really obvious to me. Ziggy's like, fine, vote for me because then I'm safe. And I think that clicks where it's like, oh crap, why should I throw my vote on someone? Because that will guarantee that they don't go home.
Well, I know you don't like watching the ends of episodes, but so Tara and her... No, this was Tara and her... Well, it's after the preview because then it's Tara in her voting confessional saying, hey, you were always going home. Like the tribal council didn't do anything for me. It was just me stirring up a little bit of fun.
Oh, Tara, you and your fun.
Yeah.
I like John Millsap's comment. People never do rock math correctly.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was an attack on you, McKenna, or players who've been starving for 19 months.
I'll have words with John if it's an attack on me, but I think it's on the people playing the game, that they never like consider, oh, our alliance is like in the majority here, we should draw the rock. But
yeah. Which, I mean, it does make sense because obviously, you know, I don't make it that far to the voting confessionals, but it did make sense because at that point, like nobody's like super tightly aligned with anybody. Like, why would you go to rocks with somebody at this point in the game?
Yeah, and also Tara is third threat in that alliance of 3. She's the third threat. So why go to rocks for the other 2 when she's got 2 vote outs before they even consider her?
Yeah, exactly. And I think Tara's a decent player, but I think she's another one where people are not really crazy about her. So I don't think anyone's going to be going out of the way to get rid of her.
Hey, did you know Tara was voted out?
No, I did not know that at all.
Okay, just so you know, Tara was voted out and is just now in the final.
Someone in the final 5 was voted out.
Yeah.
I'll stand by that. Like, I still think she's a decent player, but Did you know
she was voted out? Yeah.
I don't care. I still stand by that. And this isn't the same as like, I don't want to even like utter the words Rick Devens because they're completely different. But like, it's like, well, she's here. Like, we got to talk about her.
No.
We can't just be like, person X who was voted out did a thing tonight.
Yeah. No, I honestly do think she's actually playing a pretty great game.
I think
not gonna lie, I think
comparison.
Yeah, I think she really turned her game around when she went to Asanga and she had a better chance. She squeaked through the votes. Original Asangas went home before she did, so I think she's pretty solid.
And Philip Conte more accurately compares her to Lil. I think that's actually a better comparison. I don't think she's as disliked as Lil was in her
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
I mean, for what it's worth, like Lil did kind of command like a lot of votes, and like good or bad, and whatever you feel about her, she was a significant part of the
Hmm.
season. I think
Yeah.
Tara is probably not as influential,
Hmm.
but again, she was a huge part of this episode, even though it turns out she wasn't, because she was going to vote Ziggy out no matter what.
Yeah. And Ziggy goes home. Tear,
And
tear.
Lockie is in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, not like he wasn't before, but
Yeah, he's in the most trouble now.
yeah. He doesn't even have like a sliver of a shot to not be the next person.
No. And the only thing that he can think about, or the only thing that he can think of, is to come up with a fake idol that he uses our strategic mastermind, Tara, to disseminate the information.
Which, oh my gosh, genius! Like stealing the paper and the wrap off of the floor from Annalise. That was when I heard that I was like, this is really smart.
Love it.
But without having like a fake idol to like back it up, being like, here I have something. You're just showing a paper.
Yeah. And I think that was it. And the sequence was so good where he's like, oh, yeah, Tara, look at this. I have an idol. And she was like, oh, my God, he has an idol. And then the two guys were like, no, he doesn't. He has a piece of paper. And then she and Michelle were like, no, 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 it's an idol. And they were like, but did you see it? And there was just that consistent disconnect there. I'm with you. Like,
Yeah.
get a rock. Like, idols, again, I don't know about Australian Survivor, but idols look so fake in American Survivor now. Lockie would have put in no effort, and I think people would have bought it more. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think also at the same time, like he conveniently talks about having an idol this week. Like maybe if he was planting seed a little bit more in earlier episodes,
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have also been a little more convincing.
Yeah, probably. But I think Michelle has this one confessional where she's just like sarcastically believing that he has an idol. Like, oh, yeah, you have a paper. I believe this so much. I think she's still erring on the side of caution because at this point, you have to.
I think so too. And this is even like when Allison plays the BS idol from Angelina, when she goes,
You have to.
you have to, and the stick that Eliza plays, like you gotta do it. But I think we'll talk about the actual tribal council, but I think he's oversold it. I think at tribal council, because once he was, to go back to the big moves again, he was like, it's a big move for me to do this, but it's not a big move if I show you the idol. And they were like,
Yeah, it's like,
what's the difference here?
bling, here, bling, I have this, I'm safe.
Put it on your neck.
Ramble.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's sort of consistent, but Jericho and Peter never once buy it. I don't think I would buy it because I think like showing a clue is big. Again, maybe it's different because they haven't seen as many episodes of Survivor, but to me, like I'm not going to buy it unless I see like every single the paper, the wrapping, the whole situation.
And honestly, all you need is 3 people to be aligned hardcore. So if Pete, Jericho, and Michelle are aligned, they tell Tara, like, well, let's just shoot our shot at Lockie. I don't think he has an idol. Vote for Lockie. And then 2 of them also vote for Lockie to have the majority votes. And then another person throws their vote on Tara. And whoever Lockie votes for and whoever Tara votes for are tied. And or like whoever Lockie votes for and then the vote for Tara are tied and Tara goes home. So like there's ways to get around his idol, not for necessarily like Tara, but for 3 of them, there's a way around his idol easily.
Right. But we have like a kind of switcheroo at this point in the game. We've had a lot of really good character moments, but they've sort of been like, been on pause a little bit, since we hit the merge. But we get another, like, is Jericho going to win this thing? Jericho has a confessional about a near-death experience that he had swimming. And he's talking to, I I think he's talking to Michelle about it originally, and then Lockie catches wind of it, and the two of them talk about it. And Lockie is an adventure guide, which sounds
I
like
thought it was Tara. I think it was Tara he was
Tara.
talking to.
He's talking to Tara, and Lockie's an adventure guy, which sounds like the coolest job ever.
Mhm.
I also kept
And he
thinking
looks. He's
yeah,
like
of course
the
he's an adventure guide. He's like 9 feet tall. He's like covered in muscle, but he kept saying. I kept hearing adventure guy, like I'm a guy who loves adventure, and I was like, what? Like what's that? I looked at his byline and I was like, adventure guide. Like he literally guides.
He's a professional adventurer.
He's a professional adventure man, exactly. And takes Jericho out. And I thought that was just a really awesome moment between, two people who were kind of like never really playing together, were never on the same side. And I just thought that was a really good like growth moment for both of them. And maybe it was Lockie's swan song and Jericho's hot ride to the 500K.
Yeah, let's go, Jericho. So then right after that, we get to this challenge, and boy, is it a big one.
Oh, it is. That was so awesome. I was so excited to see that we got a car challenge.
Car curse? Does car curse extend to Australian Survivor? That is the question.
Do you really think that Michelle is not going to run away with this win?
I honestly,
we were talking before. Michelle could pull it out.
I wouldn't be mad if Michelle won. I mean, sure, she grates on me, but like her strategy's been pretty solid the entire game, and I can't deny that.
Good, she'd be a good representative of this season, I think. Yeah, so we get the car reward, and they freak out over this. And I don't know if in season 1 of this rendition, if they had a car challenge, but that totally brought me back to golden ages of Survivor with the car challenge. They were so excited.
John said cars in every season of Australia, and then Paulie says Michelle, queen of vehicles.
Queen of vehicles, absolutely love that. Queen of 4-wheel drive. Yes. That's a big car too.
For a big car that big boy Lockie wanted.
Yes, he sure did. And this just made this so much better because I like thought it was a reward, and then immunity in the car, like that's insane. Maybe that's the way of trying to save people from the car curse. It's like, we will save you this one vote.
Maybe.
Who knows? So you also.
I mean, it's not necessarily the one vote because Eliza wins the car in Vanuatu and gets 4th.
That's a good point. Oh yeah, I forgot Eliza won the car. Good for her.
Yeah.
So crazily, Michelle pulls this off. Like, has not won a challenge. Like, absolutely comes out of nowhere to win this.
And well, that challenge is like set up for someone kind of like Michelle, who's not the fastest, who's like not overzealous to, all right, I got to set everything up, push all the blocks down. Just someone who's pacing themselves through a challenge. Yeah,
definitely. Lockie is super pissed that he doesn't win this one, but it is completely
livid.
And it is only overshadowed by how absolutely bewildered Michelle is that she won.
She's like, wait, what? I won this?
I have a car and I'm in the final 5 or final 4?
3 seconds later, that's when Lockie's block falls into the gong or whatever he called it.
Yeah, whatever it was. So not only is Michelle saved the final tribal council, not only does Michelle have a bumpin' ride to drive through the streets of Australia, she also gets a picnic and gets to bring 2 friends with her.
I thought her strategy for this was solid, because I also liked that they let 3 people go on the reward and not 3 people at camp.
Yep.
Because then it just death sentences whoever Michelle brings with her. And also, I really it was really smart of her to pick Tara, because it splits up her and Lockie, so they can't form a plan together to try and do something, to pull someone, to maneuver around.
She doesn't quite know that Tara is pretty done with Lockie. She doesn't know that. And by
That,
leaving Pete there, Pete's never going to work with Lockie. So as mad as Pete is, he can't get to go on the picnic. I think they have a pretty awkward day together because neither of them know that they're going to work together.
yeah. And then it also is sort of a thank you to Tara in a way for voting Ziggy out and joining their side as well. So I think overall, Michelle makes solid decisions on who to bring with her on this reward.
Yeah, I think she makes really good decisions too. And we go back, we cut to the guys at camp, and they're like not even really talking to each other. Like it's just a really awkward.
Yeah, they're like great papaya, right? Yeah, like, it was a pretty good one.
How about this weather today? What you guys thinking, huh?
Yeah.
So this is where we sort of start like telling Pete that he's not good at the game. This is where Lockie really targets the goat. And you see this happen in a lot of seasons where the big gun knows they're in trouble. And really the only like defense that they have is, don't you want to go to the end with somebody who you would feel good about beating? But I think the difference is everybody knows that no matter what combination, Lockie is just going to completely run away with it. He's been on the top, he's been on the bottom, he's been amazing in challenges, he's been a provider. There's no reason to not vote for Lockie in the end. So he targets Pete, who is both a goat and a sheep.
Yes. Okay. So we can get to my thinking of Pete now. I don't think he's a goat or a sheep. I think like what he said at Tribal, being like, hey, my game has just been kind of under the radar. When I get to Final Tribal Council, I'll tell you all about it because I can't do it right now because that would expose what you think is if I'm a goat. Then bring me to the end. Come on, I challenge you. Like, yeah, if you think I'm a goat, like, I think he has a better shot than someone who, like, say, Courtney was the goat in Panama. Everybody wanted to bring Courtney because she couldn't win. Nobody liked Courtney, but people like Pete. Yes. So the fact that people like Pete and then he explains his strategy, he could gain or steal a couple of votes from either the eventual winner, the second place person, to put him in a further position.
Yeah. And I think Pete, obviously, like, well, I can't say obviously, like, I don't think that Pete ends up winning this.
Right. I don't either, but yeah, I still think he has a good shot.
Yeah. And I think Australian Survivor editing is a lot different from American Survivor editing. I feel like we would have seen more of Pete if he won. But what I'm seeing of Pete is, I did think that at the beginning, but he had a really good thing one-on-one thing going with Tessa. He had a really good thing going with Michelle. Like, he has a lot of very close one-on-one relationships, and sure, he's not the Henry or the Lockie or the Luke who is like loudly commanding the votes, but people vote for who they like, and I think people like him.
Yeah, people like Pete, and he can explain his strategy of how he played the game. I think that can steal some votes because, like, Aubrey was probably the strategic favorite going into that final tribal, but then Michelle was like, hey, I did this stuff behind the scenes, and people liked Michelle.
Yeah. Some
people were wronged by Aubrey. So, like, it could be in that situation if Pete gets to the end. I mean, not saying that it is, but I still do think we would have gotten a little bit more from him if he would win the game, but we did get some emotional Pete moments with like the letters and stuff like that.
Exactly. So Lockie's sort of going around. He thinks he has Tara. I think another way that I want to commend Tara is, she's been wanting Lockie out for, at least the past 3 votes. He doesn't seem to really know that because he was like pissed at Tara when she didn't vote with him to get Ziggy out, when Ziggy ended up going home. And he still kind of thinks he has her in this vote too. I don't know if it's a wishful thinking kind of thing.
I think it's a wishful thinking kind of thing because I want to say the beginning before the challenge, or maybe it was like right after the challenge, but they were like, so this is a breakup, and Tara's like, yeah, like, I still love you, buddy, like, we're best friends, but like,
but like,
Right.
please lose this challenge.
Yeah.
And so Lockie, there's still talk of this idol. There's two things I want to note. So Lockie is like idol hunting, and Michelle catches him. And I think that might be when she has a confessional that you're talking about, where she's like very much just like sarcastically talking about the fact that Lockie is an idol. Because
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, of course, Lockie, you hit it because you don't have it with you. Like, of course you hit it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I also think Jericho is a really interesting confessional where if he did this like 2 episodes ago, I would have been like, what's he doing? I don't get it. He has this big confessional saying that he thinks that he can beat anybody remaining. And I think that included Lockie. And I think with Lockie gone now, I think he is the favorite to win this.
Mm-hmm.
So they get to tribal council, and there's a lot of talk of goats, and there's a lot of talk of big moves, and there's a lot of talk of idols. There is a card that has an alarm going off right next to me. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I'm really sorry.
It's like barely there.
It's there. Okay. So why don't you?
It's not bad.
Myself for a couple seconds. Why don't you tell me what you think about both of these?
Okay. So I feel like Lockie leaving is good for this final four because they're roughly very even. And I feel like if they don't get Jericho out next, then everybody left is kind of gonna just like lose to Jericho. And I feel like it would be the most even split final three of Tara, Michelle, and Pete. No, it is final two, so it changes strategy a little bit here,
Yep.
but the most even I feel is definitely the two girls and Pete.
I think so too. And I think in general, I mean, to just be like to put this as rudely as possible, like this is a very disappointing Final Four, but at the same time, like to your point, it is an even Final Four, and I would even include Jericho in there. I think he definitely has an advantage because he's kind of like the lone of the Asangas. I think that really helps him, but it's not like, okay, well, like how's Adam Klein going to win this one? Like it's just you really don't know. I think other than Tara, because in case you weren't aware, she was voted out. I think they
Wait, what?
Yes, she was voted out a very long time ago, like 9 weeks ago. So yeah, I think it's even, and that's refreshing. We don't really see that. And so Lockie then totally oversells this idol. It doesn't come up until like kind of later on in tribal council, right before they start to vote. But it's talking about this idol, and then starts like trying to gaslight Pete and saying that it's only a big move, he doesn't show it. And I think at that point everyone's just like, all right, this is a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
But Pete still gets 2 votes.
Well, it's Lockie and Tara. I think Tara didn't want to vote for Pete.
Okay. It was. I mean, watched it?
I'm pretty sure. Was it Michelle?
I don't know, because as you know, I haven't watched the voting confessional.
I don't remember it now.
She did have a confessional that made me think it was her, where she said, like, I know that Lockie doesn't have an idol, but I don't want to be that idiot who accidentally goes home in case he does, so I'm going to put another one on Pete. I don't know if she actually went through with that. One of us should have definitely looked that up so that we knew what we were talking about tonight. But that being said, Lockie goes home 3-2.
Yes. John lovingly posted, have you done the math yet and realized that there's another non-elimination episode?
Nope, I didn't think about that. There's 3 episodes left?
Yeah.
Oh, God, what do we need that for?
Probably some sort of reward.
Maybe a family visit? I think it's odd that we haven't really had a family visit.
I don't know.
And also Samoa, where they're filming, is like a lot closer to Australia than America. So
yeah,
I think it'd be a little easier to get the family visit out.
Yeah, maybe.
So Lockie goes home. Another thing, they bring up the car, and the jury just like, they can't talk.
Yeah,
the jury's jaws just drop, and they're like, Michelle wins the car.
Yeah, she's just like, I got this immunity necklace. Yeah, it's pretty cool, but you know what I also have? I got a car.
Michelle is,
and they're like,
for every episode, I know, like Luke's face was unbelievable. But man, that's what I was getting, like about Michelle. Like for every episode where she's, to use your word, grading, like when she fought for herself, like against Ben, like that was awesome, and like her winning this car was so awesome. Like I don't, again, I don't dislike any Australian survivors the way that I find myself strongly disliking some American survivor players. And she's just funny, and I think she's kind of self-aware about it. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, like I just picture her going to Champ with the girls in her new car, and it's just like, look what I won on this reality show I was on.
Oh my
Like,
god! And she's gonna get a self tan. There were a few other things that she.
yeah, like teeth whitening, yeah, all that. She's just gonna be like rolling up, be like, yeah,
If
I
part of
won
the
this.
car challenge was you also get teeth whitening and a huge bottle of champagne, she might have collapsed.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Okay, so we are at the final four of Australian Survivor Season 2. We started this, I think, in like early October, and it is now the end of January, which is insane. This has done wonders for getting me through a quarantine because I haven't I haven't watched a new season of Survivor in, well, I guess this would have been the normal time frame, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we have a final four of Michelle, Pete, Tara, and Jericho. What do you think is going to happen? And it's a final two, like you said.
I want to say Jericho wins the next immunity or next immunities, but then it's like, I guess at final three, you never really know because it's just hand on an idol. It's even. Yeah, it's hand on an idol.
Oh, okay. So that, yeah. But I think even if Jericho doesn't win this immunity, like I don't necessarily think they're going to want to go for him. I don't think they look at him as intimidating. And I think maybe with someone like Pete just really fought for his life. And Pete was smart in being cryptic, but he was a little cryptic and like, don't worry, guys, I got a final tribal plan. That is something that would really freak me out if I heard someone say that. I don't think that they will. I don't think that they'll target Tara. I really think it'll be between Michelle or Pete for this next one. I think you keep the person who got voted out.
Yeah, okay. But so there's a story there though. It's like, yeah, I got voted out of my original tribe. I went to a Sangha. I lasted through a Sangha in a massive minority with only Annalise. And then somehow made it to the merge, flopped around a little bit, and then here I am. Like, she overcame so much in this game, where it's like and she wasn't drug along either. She was putting in the work.
Because you're defending Tara. But I think that's really fair. I think, no one ever tried to vote her out, to my like immediate callback. But you're right. I mean, she
well, I mean, the first Asanga vote was like, okay, so do we go Annalise or Tara? And then I honestly, because it's been a little bit, don't remember who went home I don't remember who went home at that
was years
point.
Ago.
It was like Kent maybe or Jackie. It was Jackie. Jackie went because she started stuff. So like there was opportunity for them to go home and just be like, no, we'll put up with Jackie. And they were like, no, Jackie's going, and used them as votes.
Yeah.
So I feel like they could have gone the easy way, but didn't. So.
Yeah. So all four of them, they all have a story. This is absolutely not the final four I would have ever anticipated, but
no. But I honestly, it kind of makes sense because like when like it's rare for a lot of like the huge characters to get to the end.
Yes. Polly just commented, remember when there was a woman named Kate? I don't. Who was the guy who was AK's original nemesis? He was a poker player. What was his name? Adam?
Yeah. Adam.
What a time. What a time to be alive.
Yeah. Yep.
McKenna, what else do you have on this Final Four?
I think that's all.
Well, we have quite a few events coming up. Phil just texted me, so I have to plug one of them. Um,
Yes.
Phil and John Millsip, who you may recognize from the challenge, and also somebody who has been commenting and giving us a lot of help throughout this podcast because he's already watched the season and there's been a lot of episodes for us to digest. Phil and John Millsip are starting the movie buff specialists. Get it? Buff, movie buff, Survivor.
What?
Yeah, right. They are going to be discussing movies once a week. This all started because Phil posted in our patron group, you should become a patron at patreon.com/Survivor Specialist, about his.
Yeah, do that.
Do that right now. He posted his top 100 movies in our Facebook group a couple weeks ago. I have seen, possibly 4 of them, but it started a really, really good debate. And Phil and I were talking, and Phil and John were talking, and thought, Survivor is not going to be on until like at least September or August. So we may as well, we're starting to finish this up. The challenge is probably about half over at this point. Why don't we just have them talk about movies, which will literally never run out of style? So
yeah.
Tomorrow at 8:30 p.m.
I was like, something happened.
I just muted myself. They are going to be discussing Les Mis and The Descendants. I have seen Les Mis. I have not seen The Descendants. Have you seen either of those, McKenna?
I've seen both of them. I've seen The Descendants once and didn't like it, but I was also young. So
You should rewatch it and tune in tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m.
Of course I'll tune in. And then the challenge on Wednesday with John and Annabelle and Phil. And then this Saturday we are filming our next trivia event with Adam Klein, and that will be posted at some point the following week. So you'll get to see who wins that.
That's going to be very exciting. So we've got a lot of stuff for you guys at this point. Like you're getting 3 straight days of podcasts. You're going to get a Monday, a Tuesday, and a Wednesday podcast for the next few weeks.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. It's actually better than Survivor season, dare I say.
Yeah, we only get 2 then. We're getting 3.
Exactly. And Phil and I also, we were talking about ways to continue talking about Survivor. And also, if you guys haven't noticed, he and I haven't actually podcasted together in quite a while. So what we're going to start doing as February starts is this is another project that kind of was born out of our patron group. Earlier this fall, we were talking about what's the best Survivor episode of all time. And only certain patrons are allowed to hear about that. So what we are going to do now is we are going to do an episode spotlight, and we're going to do Coach's Tocantins episode. We're going to do Getting Naked for Peanut Butter. We're going to do the first ever rock draw. We're just going to talk about classic Survivor episodes. And it'll be really easy because it won't require any of you guys to rewatch a whole season. We're just going to be talking about episodes that everybody remembers. So we're going to make that on a weekly basis, either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesdays to fit in with all of these. So stay tuned for that.
Also, daily Patreon content coming in February.
It's back. You heard it.
Daily content.
It's back. And we're going to talk about pretty much anything. We're going to I have a lot of comments about Australian Survivor. Phil's going to be talking about, I think, the challenge. And I think as season 41 starts to heat up, we're just going to keep talking about that. So if you guys have anything you want us to talk about, we're probably going to do them separately. Like I'll do a couple minutes, Phil will do a couple minutes, but let us know. And then one more thing this coming Wednesday, but wait, there's more. At 6 p.m. Eastern, we are bringing back a podcast favorite. We are bringing back Peridium to discuss the next steps of Survivor. We had done a podcast with Rob Sesternino, name drop, earlier this summer about the state of Survivor, what's going to happen. And I think that's only changed even more now. So what we're going to talk about is, 2020 is out the window. What else needs to go out the window for Survivor? What's going to change? What should stay? We posted a tweet and you guys left some good comments. So tune in for that. He is way smarter than both of us, and he is just incredibly eloquent and really knows this game.
Yes, I love the other podcast that you did with Peridium. So
yes,
looking forward to this one.
So Hope you guys have a lot of free time this week because we're doing a lot.
Content.
Content. McKenna, as always, thank you so much for being my co-host. We're on the home stretch, and apparently someone's not getting voted out next week. So
See you guys next week.
See you next week. Have a great